The massive view screen in the United Earth Defense Command showed a sight that humanity had waited centuries to see. A fleet of sleek, silver ships appeared just beyond Earth's moon, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. General Tom Baker stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face showing no emotion as he watched the aliens make their approach. "They're hailing us again, sir," said Lieutenant Mark Adams from his communication station. "Same message as before." Baker nodded slowly. "Put it through." The screen flickered, revealing a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 eyes. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English, "I am High Commander Reed of the Galactic Council. We have watched your civilization's progress with great interest. You have reached the threshold of acceptance into our community of advanced species." The control room remained silent. After decades of searching the stars for signs of life, first contact had literally come knocking at their door. Baker exchanged glances with Ambassador James Miller, who stood ready in his formal diplomatic attire. "We accept your invitation for diplomatic talks," Miller replied, his voice steady despite the historic nature of the moment. 3 days later, Miller found himself aboard the Council's flagship, walking through corridors that seemed to be made of flowing metal. The ship's interior glowed with soft blue light, and doors opened silently as they approached. His military escort, Captain Lisa Brown, walked beside him, her hand never far from her standard-issue sidearm. The council chamber took Miller's breath away. 12 different alien species sat in a semicircle, each more extraordinary than the last. Some had multiple limbs, others seemed to float above their seats, and one appeared to be made entirely of crystalline structures. High Commander Reed gestured to an empty seat. "Welcome, Ambassador Miller. We are pleased to begin Earth's evaluation process." The next few hours were filled with questions about Earth's technology, culture, and military capabilities. Everything seemed to be going well until Captain Brown was asked to demonstrate her weapon for the Council's military advisor. The advisor, a tall being with metallic scales, picked up Brown's pistol with 3 of his fingers, as if touching something unpleasant. "You still use projectile weapons?" His universal translator couldn't quite hide the disgust in his voice. "Yes," Brown answered proudly. "Our firearms are highly effective and reliable." Laughter erupted around the chamber. Not human laughter. It ranged from high-pitched trills to deep rumbling sounds, but the meaning was clear. They were amused by Earth's primitive technology. "My dear humans," the advisor said, setting the pistol down like it was a child's toy. "The civilized galaxy moved beyond such crude devices millennia ago. We use energy weapons, capable of penetrating any defense with pure power. No advanced species would resort to, throwing metal at high speeds." Miller noticed Brown's jaw tighten, but she maintained her professional composure. "Every species develops along its own path," she said diplomatically. "Indeed," Reed interjected, still looking amused. "We will help Earth advance beyond such outdated methods. All member species must adopt Council-approved weapon systems. It's for the greater good of galactic peace." As the meeting continued, Miller observed something interesting. While most Council members openly mocked Earth's military technology, a few of the smaller species remained quiet, exchanging meaningful glances. One of them, a reptilian being, gave Miller what appeared to be a warning look. The session ended with Earth receiving provisional member status, pending their adoption of Council technology standards. As Miller and Brown walked back to their shuttle, the ambassador couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. "They're underestimating us," Brown said quietly as they boarded. Miller nodded. "Perhaps, but what concerns me more is why they care so much about our weapons. Why insist we change our entire defense strategy?" As their shuttle departed the Council flagship, neither of them spoke their deepest concern, that the Council's laughter might hide something far more serious than mere technological arrogance. Back on Earth, General Baker reviewed the meeting recordings with a frown. He picked up his secure phone and dialed a number he rarely used. "Get me the Joint Chiefs," he said. Tell them it's about Operation Insurance Policy. I think we're going to need it." Captain Robert Wilson stood in the observation deck of Earth's Orbital Defense Station, watching a council ship perform what they called a routine patrol. Something about their movements bothered him. This was the third patrol this week, and each time, the alien vessel had scanned Earth's defense satellites with increasing intensity. "Display the shield analysis," he commanded. The station's AI brought up a holographic display showing detailed readings from the council ship's defensive systems. Wilson had been collecting this data for weeks, and a pattern was emerging. "Computer, compare their shield frequencies to known energy weapon signatures." The results made him lean forward. The Council's supposedly advanced shields were specifically tuned to stop energy-based attacks. They had almost no specialized protection against physical impacts. His communication panel buzzed. "Captain, you need to see this," said Dr. Anna White, Earth's lead weapons researcher. "Meet me in Lab 7. Immediately." 20 minutes later, Wilson watched as Dr. White fired a standard bullet at what appeared to be a miniature version of a council shield. The shield flickered brightly but failed to stop the projectile. "We've tested this 100 times," Dr. White explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "Their shields are practically useless against kinetic weapons. They're so focused on stopping energy attacks that they've completely overlooked basic physics." Wilson nodded slowly. "Keep this quiet. Continue the research, but classify everything under level Omega security." Back in his office, Wilson received an unexpected visitor. A small alien merchant, one of the Council's minor species, had requested an urgent private meeting. The creature looked nervously around the room before speaking. "Captain, my people wish to warn you," the merchant said quietly. "We have seen this before. The Council's guidance always follows the same pattern. First, they demand weapon changes. Then, they start controlling trade routes. Finally," the alien shuddered. "Finally what?" Wilson asked. "Those who resist disappear. Entire planets are cut off from galactic trade. Some species simply vanish from Council records." Before Wilson could ask more questions, the merchant's communication device beeped. "I must go. They monitor us closely. But remember, not all of us agree with the Council's methods." Later that day, Wilson sat in an emergency meeting with Earth's military command. General Baker listened intently as Wilson shared his findings about the shield weakness and the merchant's warning. "It gets worse," Baker said, activating a secure display. "Look at these satellite images. The Council is building something in the asteroid belt. Our long-range scans suggest they're weapon platforms." "But we're allies now," someone protested. "Provisional members of their council." Baker's face darkened. "Tell that to the 3 Earth cargo ships they've inspected this week. They stripped our vessels down to the hull, claiming to look for unauthorized weapons." Wilson shared his shield analysis data. The room fell silent as military leaders studied the results. Their primitive weapons might be the very thing that could save them. "Continue developing our railgun program," Baker ordered, "but keep it hidden. Let them think we're good little primitives, obediently switching to their energy weapons." As if on cue, a message arrived from the Council. They were requesting that Earth begin decommissioning its ballistic weapon stockpiles within the next 30 days. "Send a polite reply," Baker instructed. "Tell them we're grateful for their guidance, and will begin studying the transition process." After the meeting, Wilson walked through the station's main weapon bay. Rows of missile launchers and railguns lined the walls, each one representing humanity's outdated technology. A group of engineers worked quietly, installing new targeting systems designed to track Council ships through their supposedly superior cloaking fields. His tablet beeped with an urgent message from Dr. White. "New test results. You need to see this immediately." Wilson smiled grimly. The Council thought humans were primitive because they still used physical ammunition. They were about to learn that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. In orbit above Earth, more Council ships arrived daily, their crews confident in their technological superiority. None of them noticed the small changes taking place in Earth's defensive stations, or the new weapons being quietly installed on human vessels. The Council had forgotten a basic truth. It's often the simple solutions that work best. Admiral Emma Davis watched from her command chair as the Council inspection team walked through the halls of her flagship, the UES Thunder. Their expressions showed the same mix of amusement and disgust she'd seen too many times before. "You still haven't removed these primitive weapon systems," the lead inspector said, pointing at a row of railgun batteries. "The Council gave clear instructions 3 weeks ago." "The conversion process takes time," Davis replied calmly. "We can't leave our ships defenseless while we wait for your energy weapon replacements." The inspector's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Perhaps we need to speed up the process." He raised his hand, and energy readings suddenly spiked across the ship's sensors. A Council cruiser had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above them. "This is a routine compliance check," the inspector announced. "Your weapons will be deactivated for your own safety." Davis's hand moved slowly toward the command console. "I wouldn't recommend that," she said quietly. The Council cruiser fired what they called a pacification beam, a burst of energy meant to disable ship systems. But the Thunder's hull had been coated with a new type of metal that Dr. White's team had developed. The beam scattered harmlessly across its surface. "Final warning," Davis said. "Withdraw your ship." The inspector laughed. "Or what? You'll throw metal at us." Davis pressed a single button. One of the Thunder's smaller railguns fired a practice round, just a simple steel slug, moving at 15 times the speed of sound. It pierced the Council ship's shields like they weren't even there and punched a clean hole through their sensor array. The Council cruiser jerked back in surprise. Their shield systems flared uselessly as they tried to understand what had just happened. "That was a warning shot," Davis informed them. "The next one won't be aimed at your sensors." The inspection team's arrogance vanished. They practically ran back to their shuttle, leaving behind their scanning equipment in their haste to escape. Back on Earth, General Baker received the report of the incident with grim satisfaction. "It was bound to happen sooner or later," he told his staff. "At least now we know for certain. Their shields can't stop our weapons." "Sir," his aide interrupted, "Council ships are moving into position around all our major colonies. They're calling it a peacekeeping exercise." Baker activated the emergency command channel. "Initiate Protocol Ghost. All ships, go dark. All bases, activate stealth systems." Across the solar system, human ships and stations disappeared from Council sensors. This was another surprise they had prepared, ways to hide from the Council's detection systems. The Council responded by sending their largest battleship to Earth orbit. Its commander broadcast a message to all frequencies. "Earth's recent actions show a disturbing lack of compliance. For your own protection, we will be assuming direct control of your military assets." In her office at the Weapons Research Facility, Dr. White worked frantically to complete her latest project. "The new rounds are ready," she reported to Baker, "designed specifically to target their shield generators. Once those are down, they'll learn why humanity never abandoned physical weapons." Baker finished. The Council's deadline for Earth to surrender its military control was set for 48 hours. As the hours ticked by, more Council ships arrived, forming a ring around Earth. They thought they were preparing for a simple show of force against a primitive species. They didn't notice the small modifications to Earth's satellites or the tiny changes in their sensor readings. They didn't detect the hundreds of stealth platforms that had been moved into position over the past weeks. Admiral Davis sat in her command chair, watching the Council fleet grow larger by the hour. Her crew worked quietly, preparing weapons that the Council had laughed at just months ago. "Status report," she ordered. "All railgun batteries charged and loaded. Missile systems primed. Stealth systems operating at full capacity. The fleet is ready." Davis nodded. "Send word to all ships. Hold position. Wait for my signal." She looked at the massive Council fleet through her view screen. Let them make the first move. Then we'll show them exactly how effective our primitive weapons can be." High Commander Reed's face filled every screen on Earth, his 4 eyes glowing with barely contained anger. The friendly diplomat from first contact was gone, replaced by something much colder. "People of Earth," he began, "your continued defiance cannot be tolerated. For the good of galactic civilization, the Council has decided to assume direct control of your world." In the Earth Defense Command Center, General Baker watched silently. Around him, his staff monitored incoming data as more Council ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. "You were given a simple choice," Reed continued. "Accept our guidance and join galactic civilization properly, or face the consequences. You chose poorly." Baker pressed a button on his command console. "Start recording," he said quietly. "The people need to see what happens next." Reed's expression turned smugger with each word. "For thousands of years, the Council has guided lesser species toward true civilization. Some, like you, cling to their primitive ways. They must be helped to understand their place." The massive view screen showed Council ships moving into attack positions. Their weapon ports were opening, energy weapons charging with a bright blue glow. "We gave you every chance," Reed said. "We offered to upgrade your pitiful weapons. We tried to show you a better way, but you insisted on keeping your primitive projectile weapons, like savages throwing rocks." Dr. White rushed into the command center, holding a tablet. "General, you need to see this. We've decoded their secure transmissions. This isn't just about Earth. They've done this before. Dozens of times. They call it species adjustment." Baker's face hardened as he read the data. The Council's true history scrolled before his eyes. Centuries of conquest, disguised as guidance. Dozens of species stripped of their independence, all in the name of civilization. "Your weapons will be destroyed," Reed announced. "Your military disbanded. Your technology will be corrected. This is not a negotiation. You have 1 hour to surrender, or we will demonstrate what real weapons can do." In orbit, Admiral Davis received the transmission from Earth Defense Command. One word: ready. She opened a channel to her fleet. "All ships maintain stealth protocols. Weapon crews to battle stations. Load the special rounds Dr. White designed." The Council ships had arranged themselves in a perfect attack formation above Earth's major cities. Their overconfidence was obvious. They hadn't even activated their secondary shield systems. 50 minutes to their deadline, Davis's tactical officer reported. In his command center, Baker watched the Council's fleet growing larger. Hidden sensors showed their weapon systems charging, preparing for what they thought would be a simple subjugation mission. "Send the emergency broadcast to all colonies," Baker ordered. "Initiate Operation Thunderclap on my mark." Across the solar system, hidden human ships and defense platforms waited silently. The Council had no idea how many weapons were actually pointed at their fleet. Reed's face appeared one final time. 40 minutes remain. I suggest you spend them preparing your surrender. We are being generous. Most species don't receive this much warning." Baker stood up, straightening his uniform. He pressed the button to respond. The first official response Earth had given to the Council's threats. "High Commander Reed," Baker said calmly, "humanity has a message for the Council." Reed's expression showed surprise. He hadn't expected them to talk back. "You wish to surrender?" "No," Baker replied. "We wish to thank you. Thank you for showing us your true nature. Thank you for revealing what happens to species that trust the Council. And most importantly," he smiled grimly, "thank you for putting your entire fleet in perfect firing position." Reed's eyes widened as he finally realized his mistake. The Council ships had surrounded Earth, yes, but in doing so, they had also placed themselves directly in the sights of every hidden weapon humanity had prepared. "You wouldn't dare," Reed sputtered. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm our advanced shields." Baker's response was calm and clear. "Would you like to test that theory?" The next 30 minutes passed in tense silence. The Council fleet held their positions, believing their superior technology made them invulnerable. Below them, Earth's forces waited patiently, weapons locked on target. The storm was about to break. The hour of ultimatum ended exactly as High Commander Reed had planned. The Council's flagship fired the first shot, a massive burst of energy aimed at Earth's main defense station. The beam hit the station's shields and scattered harmlessly, just as Dr. White had predicted. All ships, weapons free, Admiral Davis commanded. Execute Operation Thunderclap. What happened next would be remembered in galactic history forever. Every hidden human defense platform, every cloaked ship, every satellite suddenly revealed itself. The Council fleet found themselves surrounded by thousands of weapon ports, all aimed directly at them. Impossible, Reed shouted as his sensors lit up. Where did all these weapons come from? The human response came not in words, but in metal. Railguns from Earth's surface stations fired first. Massive rounds, each weighing several tons and moving at incredible speeds, tore through the Council ship's shields like paper. Dr. White's special ammunition worked exactly as designed. The rounds ignored the energy shields completely. Their shields are useless, Davis announced to the fleet. All ships, engage your targets. The space around Earth erupted in chaos. Council ships tried to return fire with their energy weapons, but the human vessels were too well prepared. Months of studying Council technology had taught them exactly where to hit. A Council battleship, 10 times the size of Earth's largest vessel, exploded as railgun rounds pierced its reactor core. The mighty ship, pride of the Council fleet, split in half from the impact. How? Reed demanded, his ship shaking from multiple impacts. These are just pieces of metal. We have the most advanced shields in the galaxy. That's your problem, General Baker replied over the command channel. You forgot the basics, all your advanced technology, and you never thought to stop a simple bullet. The human assault was precise and devastating. Each shot targeted vital systems, engines, weapon ports, shield generators. The Council ships, designed to fight energy weapon battles at long range, had no defense against weapons that could physically tear through their hulls. Smaller human vessels darted between the larger Council ships, their conventional guns proving just as effective as the advanced railguns. Centuries of warfare had taught humanity how to build weapons that worked, not just weapons that looked impressive. Status report, Davis called out. Enemy fleet at 60% strength and falling. Her tactical officer reported. They're trying to regroup, but their formations are broken. Our stealth ships are keeping them from organizing. In the Defense Command Center, Baker watched the battle unfold. Council ships were either retreating or exploding, their superior technology useless against humanity's primitive weapons. Send in the second wave, Baker ordered. Hidden missile platforms around the moon revealed themselves. Thousands of conventional warheads launched, each one carefully aimed at the Council fleet's weak points. The Council ships tried to shoot them down with energy weapons, but there were too many targets. Reed's flagship took 3 direct hits from railgun fire. His shield generators exploded, leaving the massive ship defenseless. This is impossible, he kept repeating. We are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. We cannot be defeated by primitives. Baker finished for him. You spent so much time advancing that you forgot to look behind you. Sometimes the old ways work best. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it ended, half the Council fleet had been destroyed. The other half retreated in panic, their perfect formations forgotten as they fled from Earth's primitive weapons. Admiral Davis stood on her bridge, watching the Council ships vanish into faster-than-light travel. Damage report, she ordered. Minimal damage to our forces, her officer reported. Their energy weapons couldn't penetrate our new armor. We lost no ships. They never saw our defenses coming. In the Defense Command Center, Baker received the first messages from Earth's colonies. Similar battles have taken place throughout the solar system, with the same results. Humanity had not just defended itself, It had shattered the myth of Council invincibility. "Send word to all forces," Baker commanded. "Phase 1 is complete. Prepare for Phase 2. We're taking the fight to them." The age of Council dominance was over. The era of human innovation had begun. 3 days after the Battle of Earth, humanity launched its own offensive. The UES Thunder led a fleet of 50 ships toward the nearest Council stronghold. Admiral Davis stood on her bridge, watching as her fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a massive space station that served as the Council's regional headquarters. "They're still repairing their defensive systems," her tactical officer reported. "They didn't expect us to follow them home." The Council station's commander appeared on the main screen. "This is restricted space. Your primitive vessels are not." He stopped talking as he recognized Davis. Fear replaced his arrogance. "This is Admiral Davis of Earth," she announced. "We're here to discuss some changes in galactic politics." Before the commander could respond, a dozen smaller Council ships moved to protect the station. Their energy weapons charged, shields glowing bright blue in the darkness of space. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Delta," Davis ordered. "Show them what humanity's primitive technology can really do." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The main force, led by the Thunder, engaged the Council ships head-on. But this time, humanity wasn't just using simple railguns. Dr. White's latest invention was about to make its debut. "Launch the new missiles," Davis commanded. Hundreds of small projectiles shot from the human ships. The Council vessels tried to shoot them down with energy beams, but these missiles were different. They absorbed the energy attacks, using the power to fuel their own drives. "Impossible," the Council commander shouted. "You can't have developed this technology so quickly." "We didn't just sit around laughing at other species' weapons," Davis replied. "We learned. We adapted. We improved." The missiles struck their targets with devastating precision. Each impact delivered not just explosive force, but also a burst of electromagnetic energy that overloaded the Council's shield systems. Ships began exploding one after another. Meanwhile, on the other side of Council space, more human fleets appeared near other major installations. The Council had spread their forces thin, never expecting an attack from the species they had mocked just days ago. Messages started pouring in from across the galaxy. Other species that the Council had oppressed saw their chance. A reptilian civilization launched their own attack using copied human weapon designs. An insectoid species revealed their own hidden fleet. Back at the regional headquarters, Davis watched as the station's defenses crumbled under sustained fire from human railguns. The Council commander's arrogance had completely vanished. "Wait, we can negotiate," he pleaded. "Like you negotiated with other species?" Davis asked. "By forcing them to abandon their technology. By making them forget their own ways of fighting." The station's outer ring exploded as a specially designed bunker buster round pierced its core. Emergency force fields activated, but they were designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles. "All ships, move to Phase 2, Davis ordered. "Prepare boarding teams." Human Marines, equipped with simple but effective ballistic weapons, entered the crippled station. The Council's security forces, carrying their advanced energy rifles, found themselves outmatched by basic human body armor and bullets. "Ma'am," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving messages from 17 different species. They're asking to join our coalition against the Council." Davis smiled. The Council's greatest mistake hadn't just been underestimating human weapons. They had forgotten that oppression breeds resistance, and that even primitive species could teach advanced civilizations a lesson. The battle for the station ended quickly. Council forces, trained only in energy weapon combat, had no effective defense against human tactics and weapons. Their surrender was complete and unconditional. As Davis walked through the captured station, she saw Council officials being led away in handcuffs. Their expressions showed they still couldn't believe they had been defeated by weapons they had laughed at just weeks ago. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Phase 2 complete. The Council's military backbone is broken. It's time for Phase 3, building a better galactic government. A junior officer approached her with a tablet. "Admiral, you need to see this. We found their secret archives. The Council. They've been doing this for thousands of years, forcing species to abandon their own technology, making them dependent on Council systems." Davis took the tablet, her expression hardening. "Make sure every species in the galaxy sees this. It's time for everyone to learn the truth about their advanced civilization." The age of Council dominance was truly over. A new era of galactic cooperation was about to begin, one where no technology would be considered primitive if it worked. 1 month after the capture of the Council's regional headquarters, representatives from 30 different species gathered in the rebuilt United Nations chamber in New York. General Baker stood at the podium, looking out at the most diverse gathering of intelligent life ever assembled on Earth. "Welcome to the first meeting of the Galactic Alliance," he began. "We're here to build something better than what the Council created." In the audience, former Council member species sat next to those they had once called primitive. The mighty Council fleet had been utterly defeated, their leadership arrested for crimes against countless civilizations. Their secret archives had revealed thousands of years of manipulation and oppression. Dr. White presented her findings to the gathered species. "The Council didn't just suppress physical weapons," she explained. "They actively prevented technological development that didn't follow their approved path. They kept entire civilizations from reaching their true potential." Admiral Davis, now leading the combined fleet of allied species, stepped forward. "But that ends today. We've proven that no single approach to technology is the right way. Every species brings something valuable to our shared future." The reptilian species that had joined Earth's rebellion shared their own advanced stealth technology, which worked perfectly with human ballistic weapons. The insectoid civilization revealed their unique organic computers. One by one, species began sharing technologies they had hidden from the Council for centuries. The Council's biggest mistake, Baker continued, wasn't just laughing at our guns. It was believing that their way was the only way forward. They forgot that diversity makes us stronger. In orbit above Earth, the combined fleet of the new alliance showed this principle in action. Ships of all shapes and sizes, carrying weapons both energy-based and physical, patrolled together. Human railgun technology was being combined with alien energy systems to create hybrid weapons more powerful than either type alone. "We've drafted a new charter," Baker announced. "One that guarantees every species the right to develop their own technology. No more forced upgrades. No more looking down on different approaches." The chamber erupted in applause. Everything from human handclaps to alien whistles and light displays. The fear of Council punishment was gone, replaced by excitement for true cooperation. Dr. White unveiled her latest project, a defense system that combined human kinetic barriers with alien energy shields. "This is what we can achieve when we work together," she said. "Not by forcing everyone to use the same technology, but by combining our different strengths." In the following weeks, more species joined the alliance. The few remaining Council loyalists surrendered when they saw their former subjects working together, sharing knowledge that had been suppressed for generations. The term primitive weapons was officially banned from diplomatic language. Instead, technology was evaluated on its effectiveness, not its origin. Human firearms were now studied alongside energy weapons in military academies across the galaxy. Admiral Davis led the effort to create a new combined fleet protocol. "Every ship will have multiple weapon systems," she declared. "We won't make the Council's mistake of relying on a single type of technology." The former Council chambers were transformed into a museum, showcasing the diverse technologies of all Alliance species. In a fitting display of irony, the simple human pistol that the Council had laughed at now held a place of honor, labeled "the weapon that changed the galaxy." Baker stood at his office window, watching ships from dozens of worlds moving through Earth's sky. A small alien child pointed excitedly at a human aircraft flying past their ship, while human children marveled at alien vessels floating by. Final report, sir, his aide said. The last council holdouts have surrendered. The galaxy is entering its most peaceful period in recorded history. Baker nodded, picking up an old pistol from his desk, the same model that had caused the council to laugh months ago. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones, he said. And sometimes it takes a reminder from primitive weapons to teach an advanced civilization its greatest lesson. In the years that followed, the galaxy flourished under the Alliance's guidance. Species developed their technologies freely, sharing discoveries instead of hiding them. And if anyone ever suggested that one type of technology was superior to all others, someone would always remind them of the time when the mighty council laughed at human guns until they fired.